Hello, I'm Micker410 and welcome to my channel where I focus on 3-inch revolvers and firearms chambered in the 410 bore shot shell. Let's check out today's video. Hello, and thank you for tuning in. In today's video, we're going to be doing some FPS testing of 45 Schofield out of modern platforms. So there is a whole variety of platforms out there that are chambered in 45 Colt and 410 shot shell at the same time. And both of these, this combination chambering gets a lot of talk on the internet for a whole variety of reasons. But one of the few things that I see not covered in this huge array of topics and videos out there is that these firearms can shoot 45 Schofield. 45 Schofield is an unusual cartridge nowadays, but when it came out, it was quite popular with the U.S. government and the U.S. Army. It's essentially a shorter 45 Colt. There's a whole wiki article that goes into great depth on that. I'll look into the details of all of this for a later video when we actually test ballistics gel and clay deformation testing of specific rounds or loadings of this. Today we're just going to check to see how much does barrel length affect the feet per second you're going to get out of 45 Schofield. So if you guys give me a moment here, I'm going to pick up the camera, bring you over to the table, and show you what platforms we're going to fire it out of and what the actual caliber looks like. So on the table at the top we have the Rossi survival rifle with a 16-inch barrel. Underneath that, we have the Taurus Home Defender with a 13-inch barrel. Then we have the Rossi Brawler with a 9-inch barrel. The Taurus Magnum Judge with a 3-inch barrel. The Smith & Wesson Governor with a 2 3/4-inch barrel. The Taurus Judge Poly Protector with a 2-inch barrel. And the Bond Arms Rowdy with a 2-inch barrel. But the majority of that barrel is taken up by the actual bullet itself. So it's closer to like a 1.5-inch barrel or a 1-inch barrel. Okay, so the actual caliber itself are these two loadings right here. Okay, we have 45 ACP on the left, 45 Schofield, our Cowboy and Field or regular loading, and a 45 long Colt. And that's to kind of give you guys an idea of the difference in dimensions. Okay, so before we get into testing, I'd like to talk a little bit about why you might want to use 45 Schofield in a modern firearm. And that's because if you can get 45 Schofield for a decent price, it is significantly shorter than 45 long Colt. And that means two things. One, it's probably going to have a loading closer to a light 45 ACP or a moderate 44 special, whereas 45 Colt, if it's not a cowboy load, is probably going to be a little bit more kick than that. In addition, it's easier to eject out of revolvers because it's shorter. So when you eject these casings out of a revolver, it's less likely that they will catch on the grip. And if you go to use a speed loader, which they do exist, and I'll talk about that in our video with the ballistics gel testing and clay deformation testing that we do in the future. It's also a little bit easier to load with a speed loader because it's that little bit shorter. Not short enough to make it difficult, but not long enough to make it gangly. So those are two reasons why you might be interested in finding some 45 Schofield to use with your modern 45 Colt 410 shot shell firearms. Okay guys, let me get set up. We'll get these firearms cleared off the table and then we will start FPS testing them. We'll do each firearm 5 shots all the way through with the cowboy load, and then each firearm 5 shots all the way through with the field load. And our ammunition for both of these is 200 grain. Let's see, what does choice ammunition call this? 200 grain round nose, flat point, lead, black high tech. I believe the black high tech is a coating over the lead to make it cleaner to shoot. And round nose, flat point means it's a round nose with a flat point. So these guys aren't going to do anything crazy. If we were to test them in ballistics gel or in clay, they would just pretty much do a straight line penetration with very little deformation. Likely. Anyway, I wouldn't know for sure without testing. So yeah, okay, I'm going to switch everything up and see you guys in a couple more minutes. Okay, everybody. So we're going to be doing these in order of barrel length. So starting with shortest and moving up to longest. We've got the chronograph set up for 200 grains. We're going to be starting with the Bond arms. We will be doing a total of 5 shots. We'll get these guys out. And the listed FPS, and this is the slowest I've ever seen listed on a actual factory loading, although Choice Ammunition does pride themselves on being hand loaded and hand inspected every round. So this will be interesting too. I've never used their ammunition before. 465 feet per second is what they are saying out of this loading. And so we'll see if we get that. If so, it should be pretty mild, even out of the little Bond arms. All right, let's get my ears in. And we'll see if the Garmin will be able to actually pick this up. The Garmin says that's a minimum of 600 feet per second. So, sweet if we get it, a little bit bummer if we don't. I have no idea what to expect out of such a light loading, or slow loading, I should say. And we're just aiming at some metal targets in the backdrop. We're at 10 yards. 371? You know, honestly, that's better than I thought it would be. And that was very, very mild. Even with the bigger grips, I've replaced almost all my grips on 45 long Colt 410 firearms, simply because I find the factory grips to be a little unpleasant with the 410 shot shells. But yeah, 371 and 380, those were great, very mild, very comfortable. But of course, so slow. I'll be curious to see the footage. Whoop, I think I pulled that one to the right. I'll be curious to see the footage for shooting on target. All right. And our last one, I don't think I've hit with any of these. And to be honest, with a Derringer at 10 yards, I just don't know if I'm that good. Let's see. I'm actually going to put 2 in here, just in case it goes to a barrel that I'm not expecting it to. That way we don't have a flinch issue. All right, let's see if I can hit this target this time. Man, I don't think I did. And 390. Okay, so our average was 379 feet per second. That is, 379.3 feet per second. That is the gentlest load I have shot of any sort of big bore anything. So that was very, very light to me. I'll have to do the calculations on what kind of foot poundage that is later. But for target shooting, for cowboy action shooting, that's great. I could shoot that all day long. All right, let's switch over to the Judge Poly Protector. This guy will go a little bit faster since it's a revolver. We don't have to reload every couple of shots. All right, got that loaded. I'm going to change up the Garmin. Okay, we did record, 379.3. Canceling that session. Oh, no. End that session. Okay, well, it felt like the Garmin was accurate, even though it said that it wouldn't be terribly accurate at under 600 feet per second. 434.4. There we go. Finally, I think a real hit. 378.4. 431.4. 416.9. And 433.7. Okay, so that was an improvement. Our average is 419. Again, very gentle, very easy loads to shoot. Oh, out of the poly protector here. Again, I would greatly enjoy target shooting with that all day or entering a competition. These feel like they're probably pretty good cowboy loads. All right, let's change over to the Smith & Wesson Governor. Even though this holds 6, we'll still only shoot 5. All right, get the Garmin set back up. I'll be curious to see if this extra 3/4 of an inch gets us close to 500 feet per second or not. 479.6. 440. 433. 432. And 434. All right, well, our average on that was 443.9. Again, a little bit faster, a little bit better. So that extra 3/4 of an inch did help. And we're getting closer to our 465 listed feet per second. I can't believe that. That is such a mild loading. All right. Let's switch on over to the Taurus Judge Magnum with the 3-inch barrel. This guy will be a little bit interesting as well because in addition to having a 3-inch barrel, it is the first of the revolvers that is chambered in a 3-inch 410 bore shot shell instead of just the 2.5-inch. So I'll be curious to see if that affects it, if it keeps us, even though it's an extra 1/4 inch longer of a barrel, if that extra chamber length in comparison to the Governor keeps the speeds to roughly the same. See if it's a big wash all around. All right, let's end the session. I'm deleting these sessions as we go since I don't really need the individual data later. Keeps the Garmin clean, less cluttered. All right, Taurus Judge Magnum, 479.1. Man, that fiber optic really pops in this bright, beautiful day. 473.5. 463.6. 469.4. And 473.6. So all of those was just a little bit above the listed average or the listed velocity on box. And the Governor was actually a little bit below. All right, so far this is a nice smooth transition between barrel lengths. We increase the length of the barrel, we get faster FPS. Not a ton. We haven't jumped up by like 100 feet or anything. Well, actually, yeah, we have. From the 379 out of the Bond Arms Rowdy. We got 473 out of the Judge Magnum. So we did get an improvement of 100 feet per second in essentially an inch and a half of barrel length, roughly. All right, let me grab the Brawler. Brawler's going to be a little bit interesting since it's one shot at a time and has a 9-inch barrel. Let's end this session. All right, 9-inch barrel, super light load. I'm guessing 550 feet per second. Oh, let's move that out a little bit. 590. Oh, look at that guy zipping along. That's the fun thing about the Brawler. It does eject the shells, which is very nice. If you did ever have to reload this thing, it looks like it'd be relatively easy. All right, let's see what our second shot is. .508. Okay, so that was significantly different between the two. That was a 90 foot-pound difference, or 90 feet per second. And when you're dealing with such slow loadings, that's a lot. And again, super mild, folks. This is very gentle shooting. I could do this all day. Honestly, this is significantly more satisfying to shoot than any 22s. Significantly more expensive as well. 541, okay. Shot number 4. 556, okay. And shot number 5. 544. With an average of 548.3, I almost called it dead on. I'm a little, I'm not upset about that. That was fun. Okay, let me grab our Taurus Home Defender. All right, so the Taurus Home Defender is a little bit funny. It doesn't have a real sight on it. It has a 13-inch barrel, and it's set up just for running an optic. I don't have this optic really sighted in for it, so we'll just sort of see what we get. And the optic is also crazy cheap. It is just the minimum. Wow, I wonder. Okay, all right, so, oh, yeah. Let me get the Garmin set up. Let's see. Got a little excited, forgot to write that down. 548.3. And all right. The optic looks really off on this, guys. We'll see. Or dead on. 583.6. Okay, I think we may have found the limit on the barrel. 581.1. The gas is very mild on my forearm. I know that's a big concern with putting the arm in front. That may be different on the hotter load. 593.2. 584.4, and 567.1. Okay, with an average of 581.8. All right, we picked up another 40 feet per second. I wonder if the survival rifle will take us above 600 feet, or if we have reached the limit of this light cowboy loading. So there's enough spray on my forearm that I might put on a little bit of a protector, a little forearm protector, when I shoot the actual field load. All right. Clear out that session. All right, have the Garmin all set up again. Okay, so the Rossi Tuffy here, or Rossi survival gun, not the Tuffy, has on the side some little shell holders for 410 and 45 Colt, and it will also hold the 45 Schofield quite nicely. Just thought I'd show that. All right, let's see what we get out of the survival rifle here. 597. All right, that's pretty good. I don't know if we'll cross 600 feet per second or not. Again, super mild. This is incredibly mild. We'd have to check the calculations for foot poundage, but it's got to be under 200. My guess is it's probably around 150 or something. 587. Matter of fact, I'll include those calculations at the end of this video. 570, 0.8. That 0.8 might matter at these slow speeds. 591. And our last shot. Very comfortable, very accurate, very easy to see what's going on with this guy. I really like these single shot Rossies. They're very easy to operate. No stress. Okay, so our average there is 581.9. Oh, giving us a 0.1 increase over the Taurus Home Defender. So that extra 3 inches of barrel basically did nothing. All right, well, that's good to know. All right, everybody, we're going to switch ammunition now. And start this process all over again. That was a lot of fun. Those were great. Absolutely enjoyable. Choice ammunition, good job in loading up some really comfortable and fun cowboy action loads there. All right. And I'm going to delete that session. Start up a new one. And we're back to the Bond Arms Rowdy. Let's see, I think that might be better for you guys to see. Now these guys are claiming like twice the feet per second here, so this should have, I know I say significantly a lot, but this should have significantly more kick. Oh yeah, 600 feet per second. Yeah, that's almost double our average from, oh. All right, I almost started to reload. 596, yeah. We're getting the same speed out of this 2.5-inch barrel that we were getting out of the 16-inch barrel for the survival gun. And you can see how much of the chamber that takes up. You know, this is a whole 2.5 inches, but this is a little bit over an inch, so that leaves us about 1.5 inches travel space or travel length. Get out that extra bullet there. Ooh. 594 and 597. Not unpleasant though. Stout, but not unpleasant. And that's one of the things that I like about heavy, slow bullets. Stout, but not unpleasant. I can see why historically people really like those, or why historically there was an argument for slow and heavy versus small and fast. All right, our 5th shot here. See if I can hit the target again. I think I got it. 555 for an average of 588.8. All in all, very impressive for a Derringer. I think that would do what a Derringer is supposed to do. We'll get the numbers on that, but you know, that's gonna hit harder than a 22 or a probably a 32 ACP kind of a situation. Definitely harder than a 25 ACP. So if you're gonna have a Derringer and you want to do stout, fat, and slow, this works very nicely. That was much more comfortable than the 45 long Colt rounds I've shot out of that. All right, let's switch on over to the Taurus Home Defender, or the Taurus Poly Protector. My mistake. All right, let's see what a proper cylinder and proper barrel length gets us for speed improvement. Let's end that session. Delete that last one. Start a new session. All right. Here we go. 698.3. Yep. 700. 678.6. There we go. 678.1 and 721.5. See what I mean about it not getting really stuck there? A 45 long Colt has a much bigger issue with that. So if you were in a situation where you thought you might be having to do reloading, 45 Schofield will get you decent performance and a quicker reload. All right, 721.5, much better performance, or a much hotter performance than anything we saw in the Cowboy load, no matter the length of barrel. Let's get ourselves set up for the judge. And again, stout, but not unpleasant. Even these loads would be comfortable to shoot a lot of. And I can say that the Taurus judge, the Taurus Poly Protector judge, the Smith & Wesson Governor, and the Taurus Magnum judge while they all have different sight pictures, they're all good sight pictures. All right. Move this guy up a little bit. $735. $696. Oh. $699. $738. And $709. Oh. All right. Our average there was 715 feet per second. I think that might be the first time we got a lower average, even though we went up in barrel size. Yeah. The poly protector has a 2-inch barrel and got 721.5 feet. And the Smith & Wesson Governor with a 2 3/4-inch barrel only got 715.9 feet. That's why we do these tests, because it's fun to see where those oddities pop up. It's fun to see where the data points don't line up the way we would hope they would to keep everything consistent and smooth. All right. Let's try the Taurus Judge Magnum. I'm curious to see if, again, that longer chamber, that longer cylinder, in comparison to the Smith & Wesson Governor, will affect the speed any. $726. $797. That's a really nice one. $774. $783. And $754.7. Yeah. Really made the target dance a little finally. That's always fun to see. And I know I haven't done any of these really double action. That's because I'm just sitting out here on the range having some fun. If I were to want to carry any of this, I would practice the double action. You know, and I don't really have a ton of this ammunition anyway. Once we're done with these videos and the little bit of ballistics gel testing, I'll probably be out of it unless I come across a really good deal somewhere. All right, so we're ending that session and starting a new one. Well, we'll delete it, then we'll start a new one. All right. Back to the Rossi Brawler with its 9-inch barrel. Let's see if we can get above 800 feet per second here. That'd be fun. And remember, it's only rated at 815 feet per second. So we still haven't reached its rating yet. $854.5. All right. Haven't reached it, but we'll pass it. I'm okay with that. Again, very manageable. Nothing unpleasant about shooting any of this. 872.8. What's fun about this is the recoil is very much back, not up. $900. Holy moly. I didn't think we'd see any of that outside of the survival rifle. .890. And our last shot with the brawler, 854.5. And as you can see, every one of these shots has been nicely accurate. No problems at all. All right. Our average was 874.6. So again, we see that 9-inch barrel on the brawler takes us above listed velocity by a significant amount, especially when dealing with such low factory speeds. All right, let's end that session. Delete it. And we'll load up a new session. All right, and now on to the Taurus Judge Home Defender. Left the optic on by accident. We'll have to remember to turn it off after we shoot these 5 rounds. All right, so we got to 874. I think the Schofield has enough juice in it to get above 900 feet per second out of this guy. Let's find out. .931. Look at that little guy go. 943.9. 944.5. 936.4. And 944.6. Holy crap. An average of 941 feet per second. Or I'm sorry, 940.1 feet per second. Look. That was very soft, very manageable in this platform, very accurate. I don't think that would be problematic at all to use in a serious situation where 200 grains of lead going at 940 feet per second will get the job done. You know, I'm not going to hunt a deer at 50 or 100 yards with it, but in a home defender type situation, that might work quite nicely. All right, let's switch it up. Our survival gun. Oh, and I would like to say that the powder coming out of the Taurus Home Defender on my forearm here was not problematic even out of the hotter round. It was barely noticeable. And as somebody that shot a fair amount of the revolver rifles, whether it's a long Heritage 22 or it's a Turkish 410 revolving rifle smoothbore, I have felt a lot of powder on my forearm before. And that was almost like it wasn't there at all. That design was good, and it handled this loading in particular quite nicely. All right, let's get out of this session. Delete it. I hope you guys don't mind me including all of this deleting. It really helps later. All right. Will we break 1,000 feet per second out of the survival rifle with a 200 grain bullet? .909. Maybe not. Maybe not. Let's find out here. .927. Yeah, this barrel length might be just too long for it. It might be petering out. Still accurate, still comfortable to shoot. .936. .925. Yeah. I think the sweet spot is that 13-inch home defender. Who would have thought? And .945. Okay, so our average there was 929.0. Okay, our best performance was the Judge Magnum, or the Judge Home Defender, pretty much all around. So, folks, if you want to use 45 Schofield, the Taurus Home Defender might be the firearm to use it out of. It's a very mild shooting, heavy, big bullet that you don't have to worry about it trying to expand at low velocity. It's subsonic. Yeah, that might be a really good load for it. I would never have thought. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video as much as I enjoyed making it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.